Last year, my roommate left the house we'd shared for 4 years. Both of us had landed better jobs with higher salaries, and the house we'd been in wasn't exactly top-notch. It was inevitable that one of us would eventually move on to find a place of our own. When he left, I found myself with more space and decided to stay on for another year or two. This all happened in early December during a week of heavy snowfall in our area. My workplace allowed remote work due to the weather, so naturally I took up the offer. I transformed my ex-roommate's old bedroom into my office and spent my days working there. One day, while engrossed in work, I heard a knock on the front door. I left the room to see who it was. A man bundled up in a thick winter jacket stood on the porch. He didn't seem like a worker or a delivery person, just an average guy. I opened the door and the snow and wind rushed in. "Can I help you?" I asked. The man smiled and apologized for the interruption before explaining his predicament. He mentioned that his car had gotten stuck in the snow near my house, and he didn't have his phone. He requested to borrow mine. Naturally, he was wary. I requested a moment, closed the door, and made my way to the opposite end of the house. Peering out the window facing the road he'd mentioned, I spotted a small SUV lodged in a snowdrift, confirming his story. Feeling more assured but still cautious, I slipped on my jacket and shoes before returning to the front door. Despite my lingering doubts, I stood with him on the porch as he made a call using my phone to reach his brother. I held on to a bit of skepticism, ensuring I could catch up or prevent his escape if he tried to run off with my phone. Following a brief conversation, he handed back my phone, expressed gratitude, and departed. Watching him from the window, I saw him get into the car. Assuming all was resolved, I returned to work in my makeshift office, continuing until around 7 in the evening. Feeling accomplished for the day, I decided to call it a night. However, a sudden recollection of the man in the car prompted me to investigate. To my surprise, the vehicle remained motionless, and I could discern movement from within. Nearly 3 hours had elapsed, leaving me puzzled about why he was still there. Perhaps he was waiting for his brother's return from work to pick him up. I couldn't be sure. Ignoring the uncertainty, I headed to the kitchen, prepared dinner, and settled on the couch for some TV time. I stayed up until 9:30, then headed upstairs for a shower, intending to wind down for bed. As the water flowed, a sudden, jarring knock resounded on the front door. It was so abrupt and forceful that fear momentarily paralyzed me. The sheer intensity made the walls quiver, the noise reverberating through the entire house from the front entrance. The relentless banging and aggressive rattling of the doorknob created a chaotic scene, leaving me disoriented about what action to take. Hastily, I turned off the shower and dressed, but as I ventured out into the hallway, ascending to the second floor, the uproar ceased. Absolute silence enveloped the house. It was an eerie stillness, accompanied only by the howling wind outside. An unsettling sensation gripped me as I cautiously descended the stairs, inching toward the front door. Yet, when I reached it, there was no one in sight. I rushed to the window, confirming the car's presence, but my husband was nowhere to be seen. Uncertain about the whole situation, I decided to contact the police. Upon their arrival, they noticed multiple sets of shoe prints in the snow, although the storm swiftly covered them. However, they managed to record the car's license plate, discovering the owner's picture. To my surprise, it was the same individual I had assisted on my porch. In the days that followed, authorities awaited his appearance, but he never surfaced. The unsettling thought of what transpired that night right outside my door lingered. Was it the same man, desperate for reasons unknown, attempting to gain entry? Or was it someone else with more sinister intentions? A opinions varied. Some speculated that he might have been seeking help while fleeing from someone, yet what occurred afterward remained a mystery. The events of that night, the man's current whereabouts, and the reason for his actions remain unanswered queries on an extensive list. It's a disturbing scenario, leaving a trail of questions likely never to be resolved. In the heart of January, I leased a cozy winter cabin nestled along the lake shore, ideal for my passion for ice fishing. This petite cabin offered only the essentials, catering exclusively to individuals like myself drawn to fishing, or specifically ice fishing expeditions. Typically I'd bring along a friend, but occasionally I ventured solo, never encountering any issues with the solitary outings. I had a loose plan to spend 3 leisurely days at the cabin, solely dedicated to lakeside fishing. Upon my arrival on the first day, I settled into the cabin, arranging my belongings and making myself comfortable. I spent the day enjoying hot coffee, lounging by the fireplace in the all-in-one space, where the bed and fireplace shared the room. Drifting into slumber early, I woke at 7 a.m., eager to head to the lake. The serene spot lay a brief 10-minute walk away, along a snow-blanketed forest path. Upon reaching the lake, I found a prime location, arranged my gear, drilled through the ice, and commenced my fishing routine. For me, it's a serene stress reliever, though I'm aware many deem it mundane. Several hours passed as I sat amidst the tranquil scenery, but the snowfall intensified, accompanied by stronger winds. Sensing the weather's turn, I packed up and made my way back along the trail. However, I immediately noticed fresh tracks in the snow, running parallel to my own trail. These tracks led straight to the lake's edge where I had been fishing, then doubled back along the path toward the cabin. I felt uneasy knowing someone might be lurking nearby, possibly observing me. Curiosity mingled with apprehension, prompting me to trace the tracks and uncover their destination. Following the prints, I observed they aligned with the path leading directly to the cabin. However, instead of approaching the cabin, they veered off into the woods, disappearing amidst the trees. Perplexed and a tad anxious, I retraced my steps to the cabin, seeking solace by the comforting warmth of the fireplace. Given the remote location, encountering anyone was peculiar, especially in winter. I prepared a meal, hunkering down in the lodge for the evening, engrossed in reading, the fireplace crackling away. Just after sunset, a faint but distinct sound of snow crunching underfoot caught my attention. Peering out the window, a figure emerged from the trees, cloaked in thick attire, rendering their features indistinguishable. Strangely, upon reaching the trail, they pivoted back toward the cabin. I instinctively lowered myself, concealed near the window, listening intently as the footsteps drew nearer, edging closer to the wall beneath which I hid. Their silhouettes shifted, seemingly peering into the cabin. Abruptly, their gaze fixed upon me. Startled, I recoiled, distancing myself from the window, and the individual swiftly attempted to force it open. Reacting swiftly, I retrieved a nearby knife, but despite their persistent efforts, the intruder eventually fled. I witnessed their figure vanish into the snow-covered forest, retracing the path they had initially taken. Swiftly gathering my belongings, I dashed to my car, departing the area mere minutes later. Their motives remained a mystery, yet their calculated return in the dead of night, attempting a break-in after spotting me by the lake, indicated nefarious intent. Thankfully, I emerged unscathed, but I couldn't shake the feeling that that night narrowly escaped being my last. Back in January 2020, during my winter break at 18, I joined DoorDash because a few friends were also involved. It wasn't out of necessity. I still lived with my folks and was in high school, but more for the activity. Plus, earning a couple of $100 weekly felt great as a teenager. The initial nights on the job went without a hitch. I quickly grasped the routine after the initial 3-4 orders, and from there, the work pattern remained consistent. In the second week, driven by the thrill of earning, I pushed harder, aiming to maximize my earnings. My friends shared the same sentiment, mentioning that bad weather often resulted in higher profits. One snowy night, I decided to hit the road for deliveries. For the first hour, I FaceTimed a friend while driving, but he called it a night around 8. Since it was a Saturday, I had the liberty to continue as long as I pleased. However, by 10 o'clock, boredom crept in. Taking on another order, I grabbed my bag and navigated to the neighborhood. It appeared to be an average street lined with ordinary homes. Yet, the snow-covered landscape made it challenging to drive, obscuring house numbers. Slowly, I inched along the street until finally locating the correct address, a 2-story country house adorned with lingering Christmas lights. After parking, I geared up, ensuring I had everything in my bag. As I trod up the driveway, my eyes fixated on the porch, where I noticed something peculiar. The front door was ajar. The door wasn't wide open, just slightly ajar, a detail that struck me as odd, particularly with the snowfall and the chill in the air. My assumption was that it was left that way so I could place the bag indoors instead of leaving it outside in the snow. Tentatively, I nudged the door further and gently slid the bag inside the house. As I reached for my phone to capture a confirmation photo, a woman's voice echoed from somewhere within the house. She inquired if I was the courier delivering her order. The woman, appearing youthful, likely in her 20s, awaited a response. "Yes, I left it right by your door," I replied, anticipating a brief exchange. Unexpectedly, she urged me to open the door and bring the bag inside. While it struck me as odd to be invited into their home, curiosity got the better of me. Pushing the door ajar, I peered beyond the threshold, revealing a lengthy hallway that seemed to lead toward what I assumed was the kitchen. Along the wall, a distinct shadow hinted at a woman, likely standing just around the corner. "Where would you like me to bring this?" I inquired, awaiting direction. A prolonged silence lingered before the woman partially leaned out from the corner, appearing at the hallway's end. She gestured for me to come in and simply bring the bag to her. As she turned the corner and vanished from sight, a chilling realization struck me. The shadow outline on the wall hadn't moved in tandem with her. Someone else's shadow lingered beside her around that corner. My body tensed, blood pulsating with alarm. Without a word, I cautiously placed my bag on the ground, slowly stepped back, and then pivoted, sprinting away from the house in a surge of panic. Hastily jumping into my car, I glanced back through the front window as I sped away, only to witness a looming figure of a sizable man approaching, watching my departure. Stopping at the nearest gas station, I tried to regain composure, replaying the harrowing events in my mind. It was evident the entire scenario had been some form of setup. Yet, reporting it to the police felt futile. I knew my word alone wouldn't suffice as evidence. When the authorities questioned the woman about the incident and attempted to search the house, she adamantly denied the presence of anyone else, blocking any further investigation. It remained an enigma, what ulterior motives lay behind their attempt to lure me inside. I could only surmise that had I ventured in without a second thought, the outcome might have been dire.